The Measuring Show.
Since 1970, MPB has been enriching the lives of Mississippians.
Everything we do gives us the chance to grow and learn.
With your support, we are always there whenever and wherever you need us. Together through the years, together in the future. Please consider making a donation at mpbfoundation.org. MPB, your stories, our mission.
Good morning. Welcome to Deep South Dining right here on MPB Think Radio. Good morning. It's Malcolm White with Carol Palmer, whose microphone is floating about over there.
Hey, Mal. How you doing?
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
I don't think we've been in the studio together in 3 or 4 weeks.
I know. I hate when they do this to us.
It happens. You know, we went over to Meridian and with the team, and we recorded 2 shows. So we got a April 14 and an April 28th show out of the Sip and Savor event at the Max in Meridian. The first show, which aired on April 14th, featured Vish Bhatt, where he announced his big announcement that he's leaving Oxford, leaving Snack Bar, going to Washington, D.C., and open an Indian restaurant. But all the details he revealed in that interview. We also interviewed Penny Kemp, the executive director of the Max, and of course Enrica Williams was on that show. They had 40 chefs and 3,000 people over there in the streets of Meridian.
You know, Malcolm, that's strong.
Very strong.
They started that festival, and hey, what a success!
And then on April 28th, and again, you can podcast these shows. If you've missed them, you can go back and listen to them. Our April 28th show, part 2 of Sip and Savor, with interviews with Alex Perry from Ocean Springs, Ty Thames of Starkville, Jeremy Nofke of Hattiesburg, and Gino Lee of Jackson. So we were able to corral that many of the chefs and get them on for 2 shows, and it was a lot of fun. Sorry you weren't there.
Well,
but
I was in New Orleans.
Of course.
And I was with a group of women from the Mississippi Women's Forum, and we had quite the celebration. We were celebrating the contribution of women to the cuisine of New Orleans. We had, our first night was at Commander's Palace, where we honored the legendary and late Ella Brennan, who her impact on New Orleans food, the service, the style, everything just still resonates. And her daughter T. Martin, who runs Commanders today, spoke to us. And then the very next day we ate at Dookie Chase, which is arguably the icon of African American restaurants in New Orleans.
Absolutely.
Many, many decades. And actually, Malcolm, you gave me Leah Chase's cookbook many, many years ago.
I love some Leah Chase.
The queen of Creole cuisine, and sadly, Leah is no longer with us, but her family is still, running the show. And in fact, the next generation, the third generation, are branching out into other restaurants. But her daughter, Stella Chase, spoke to us, and we ended with a bang at breakfast at Brennan's on Saturday morning. So
I think they wrote a song or a book about that.
So you were with 40 chefs, but I wasn't slacking.
Oh no, of course not. And I just wanted to let you know we've been invited back next year, so you and I will have the opportunity.
We'll put it on our calendar
to be at Sip and Savor next year. By the way, Carol, happy Cinco de Mayo.
Okay, do you see my outfit?
It's very Mexican.
Yes, I'm all about Cinco de Mayo today. I'm making plans, Mal.
Well, you got big plans?
I'm going grocery shopping right after the show, and I'm going to Cinco de Mayo up our dinner tonight.
Excellent, excellent. I'm sure there are many celebrations all across the state, certainly here
all
in
across
Jackson.
the country. And, somebody was saying, it's Mexican Independence Day. It is not.
No, no, no.
No, it is not. It actually commemorates Mexico's victory over the French at the Battle of Puebla.
There you go.
1862. But, they think of it as a symbol of resilience and unity. And what can we do for Cinco de Mayo besides cooking our own? It's support our local Mexican restaurants today.
Absolutely. So I think that's a great idea to support them every day, but certainly on Cinco de Mayo. So happy Cinco de Mayo to each and every one of you. Thank you for tuning in and listening to Deep South Dining right here on MPB Think Radio.
And, I'd love to hear what some of our listeners are doing for Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, if there are things you'd like to share, please give us a call at 1-877-672-7464 or shoot us an email to food@mpbonline.org if you know of a Cinco de Mayo celebration, or if you have a Mexican dish that you'd like to share with us,
or
a
drink,
recipe, or
drink.
Please share that with us. Okay, Carol, in the news, social media tells me that the legendary Beacon restaurant in Oxford is closing after 66 years.
No.
The
Say
Beacon.
it isn't so, Mal.
Well, I'm hoping that our North Mississippi correspondent, Chico Harris, is listening this morning, and he can confirm or deny the rumor that the Beacon will be closing on the 10th of May. That will be the last chance to get the Beacon lemon icebox pie. And
what about breakfast?
the great breakfast and
I'm thinking we should drive up there, but I bet there are going to be lines out the front door.
So if you know about this, please let us know. We would love to get an inside scoop. I'm taking my information from social media, and that can be scary sometimes.
Very spooky.
But anyway, there you have it. Another thing I wanted to bring to our listeners' attention, on July the 12th, Leanne Galt and I will be presenting at the Catfish Row Museum Summer Chef Series at 2 p.m. in the afternoon at the museum, at Catfish Row Museum in Vicksburg. That's July 12th. Our very own Leanne
Galt. That's strong.
I
think I saw a picture of you in some publication.
Oh, speaking of Vicksburg.
Speaking of Vicksburg.
We have this magazine called Vicksburg Living. And in there is this elaborate article about fine dining from Memphis to New Orleans, remembering Tuminello's Kitchen. And there's this wonderful, multi-page piece in here. I furnished some of these photographs for this article. And there's even a photograph of myself, Kenny Whitley, and Joe Mitchell and Mrs. Tuminella, probably taken in 1980, 81, somewhere in there, when we were running the Tuminellas in Vicksburg.
And you have a very, very black, bushy beard.
I showed it to my grandson.
And lots of hair.
Yesterday. And he just fell out laughing at my beard and my long, dark hair.
Well, Mel, of all your restaurants, I mean, you attended so many colleges and universities, and you've worked in so many restaurants, and I had totally forgotten about Tuminello's. But why don't you just briefly tell our listeners the import of Tuminello's in Vicksburg, Mississippi?
Well, Tuminello's was like a lot of restaurants, old school restaurants like Lusco's and Doe's, which began as grocery stores and evolved into restaurants. In Tuminello's, the restaurant grocery store was located near the railroad track, and when the railroad workers would come in to get groceries, Miss Tuminella would start serving them spaghetti, meatballs, lasagna, Italian dishes that she was cooking for her family. And the next thing you know, people were asking about the Italian food, and it evolved into a restaurant. But it's an important piece of the Italian immigrants in Vicksburg, in the Delta, and it was located on Speed Street, which is what they call Catfish Row. You know, the great David Cohen quote that the Mississippi Delta begins at the lobby of the Peabody Hotel and ends in Catfish Row in Vicksburg. And Tuminella's set right on the edge of the railroad in Catfish Row, and was an Italian-owned and operated shop. And we were privileged, Joey Mitchell and myself and a group, Kenny Whitley, Danny Summers, Bo Wilkerson, Michael Berry, a bunch of folks who were working and living in Jackson, went over there when Joey bought Tuminella's and ran it for a number of years. And at that time, Joey owned 5 restaurants. Walker's, he and I owned together, George Street Grocery, Oliver's in Highland Village, Tuminella's in Vicksburg, and the Old Depot in Port Gibson. And I was the general manager of all 5. I had an apartment in Jackson and an apartment in Vicksburg.
An early restaurant group. I mean, Robert St. John has nothing on you guys.
And I would just drive back and forth and all around to these 5 restaurants and put out fires.
And so you were in your 20s, I'm guessing.
Probably early 30s, late 20s. Yeah.
Wow.
Late 20s, early 30s.
Well, small world story.
Very small world.
I worked for the Vicksburg Evening Post. It was my first job during college, and the very first article I wrote that was a big feature article was on Skippy Tuminello.
Well, there you go. The architect.
I still have the print. This is old school. I still have the metal print off of the press that printed that paper of my article about Skippy Tuminello.
You know who else worked at the Vicksburg Evening Post? David Ray Morris. One of his early photographer jobs was working for the
Did not know
Vicksburg
that.
Evening
And
Post.
who else worked there was our good friend who we've never met in person, Bob Yarbrough, who lives in Richmond, Virginia now.
Wow.
And is probably, the god of cooking and coping, he and Tim Pierce. And Bob was a reporter there for a number of years.
Huh. There you go.
There you go.
The world gets smaller.
Yeah. Now, listen, I've got to talk about this pear cake.
Please talk about
I know
the pear
you
cake.
haven't seen me in a long time, and I appreciate you bringing the bounty of your kitchen. But I want you to tell me about this pear cake.
Well, first of all, it was made by my wife.
While I eat it.
Yes, and it's a bundt cake, and she had 2 cans of pears in the pantry that had been unused. They're unsweetened. These are not sweet. These are no sugar added pears, and she stumbled into them yesterday while rooting around in the pantry, and decided she would make a pear cake. And so,
just like that,
voila! You are experiencing her. Very moist.
It is
very flavorful.
Indeed, very moist. And I must comment, a few weeks ago, you brought an apple cake that she made.
Oh, and Marissa, here's your pear cake. So don't think you're being left out in here.
But her apple cake had a secret ingredient, or a new ingredient she had not been using before.
She used buttermilk as opposed to sweet milk, and I thought it made an excellent cake.
It did indeed.
Yeah, that was her famous apple cake, which was her aunt's recipe that she makes all the time. But this would be a version of that cake, except with the pears.
So shout out to Kara Norris White, our favorite baker.
Hey, also, Kara and Carol, in the news on social media, I stumbled across this past week a piece posted by my friend Donna Cartwright Roten. Donna is a Boonvillian, lives in Memphis, and has been traveling in Scotland. And while in Scotland at Plockton, Plockton.
Correct.
A lovely little town not far from the Kyle of Loch Ness, which is leading to the Isle of Skye, where you and I have traveled. The Plockton Inn is a restaurant, and on the menu, it promoted Mississippi comeback sauce.
You've got to be kidding me.
I'm not kidding. I confirmed this twice with Donna Cartwright-Roten. They on the menu, and she sent me a photo of the menu promoting Mississippi comeback. And when she told the staff that she was from Mississippi, the chef came out and was very nervous to learn that a Mississippian was in the dining room eating the Mississippi comeback sauce. And he was very curious whether or not he had gotten it right. And Donna assured him that he had.
Malcolm,
it's an international
you're
recipe.
international. You are international. We had so much fun there.
We did.
And, we ate so many strange and wonderful things. And I saw that my husband has been back in the food catalogs. I opened the freezer last night and see this package from Scotland of butter tatties.
Butter patties.
Tatties. Taddies.
Okay. Tatties.
So I will report on butter tatties next week.
Okay, one last tidbit here. I thought you'd be curious about this. Rick Cleveland and I are going to be at the Max in Meridian, speaking of the Max, on Saturday, June the 11th at 11 a.m. in the morning, in a conversation about artists who were also athletes and athletes who were also artists. Think Jim Weatherly. Think Jerry Clower. Think Elvis Presley. Think Charlie Pride.
Whoa. Charlie Pride, baseball, but
Yeah.
Elvis?
A boxer.
No.
We've done a lot of research on this, Carol.
Well, I used to have one of those placemats. Those placemats are like encased in acrylic that you buy at the Elvis store in Memphis.
Yes.
Wipe-off placemats, that's what I'm thinking. And it was one of Elvis in a boxing ring, but I thought
There
it
you
was
go.
from his movie.
No, well, he performed as a boxer in a movie, but he was also an amateur boxer coming up. How about Tricia Walker? Basketball. And now, of course, entertainer, singer, songwriter. So anyway, we've got this whole shtick that we've outlined. We'll be appearing live at the Max on June 7th.
Did y'all just think this up as a reason to get to go to Meridian?
I think this up to get to go to Meridian and hang out with Rick. And we're going out to eat at the Rustler the night before, a legendary old school steakhouse in Meridian. So
Malcolm White, you can come up with a gig better and faster than anybody I know.
Hey, by the way, speaking of gigs, did you watch the Kentucky Derby?
I did not. And
Talk
I
about
know
an
you
eating-
hardly believe that because I've actually been to the Kentucky Derby so many times.
You love it.
I love it. I have all the hats to prove it. But we had a happening, and I was not
Okay.
able to do that.
But we have often spoken of the Kentucky Derby here on the show because it
Right.
is such a eating, drinking, celebratory event, and social media was just crammed full of people attending events with beautiful hats and outfits. I was blown away by it. But I saw this comment someone made on social media referring to the Kentucky Derby as an Amish NASCAR. I had not heard of the Kentucky Derby referred
I certainly
to.
don't think of it as Amish, but that's pretty strong.
Well,
If we had been on the radio last week like we should have been,
Yeah.
we could have been eating Derby pie on the air.
indeed. And Mother's Day is coming up, another celebratory holiday coming up. So we're looking forward to that. So Mother's Day is on May 11. Of course, today, May 5, Cinco de Mayo. And so National Shrimp Day
That's
is
what I'm excited about, is National Shrimp Day.
May the 10th.
Yeah, it's
knew?
genetic.
Very much so. All right, so that's what we're going to do, and we're going to take a break. That's what we're going to do. And when we come back, we're going to start talking about something we've been excited about for a while around here, the Jackson Coffee Festival. We started talking about this when your brother was on the show.
Yeah, weeks ago. And we are so excited to have Stephen Burnett stop by the studio and tell us about the first Jackson Coffee Festival.
Yeah, we're excited. It's going to take place at the Trademark. I believe it's this weekend, but Stephen will be here shortly.
Guess what his title is?
I don't know.
Professional Coffee Enthusiast.
Wow. Looking forward to that. All right, we'll take a short break. If you want to join the conversation, it's 1-877-672-7464 or shoot us an email to food@mpbonline.org. Deep South Dining. We'll be right back.
Support.
At the Mississippi Arts and Entertainment Experience in Meridian, we believe in the power of the arts, storytelling, and education, just like Mississippi Public Broadcasting. MPB connects communities across the state with quality programs that inform, inspire, and engage. Their audience is loyal and appreciative of businesses that support public broadcasting, which makes underwriting on MPB a smart investment. Join us in supporting MPB. Learn more at mpbfoundation.org.
Hello, I'm Desiree Frazier, host of the award-winning news program, Mississippi Edition. We bring you conversations about the latest news from across the Magnolia State. Whether it's politics, healthcare, or education, you'll hear in-depth discussions on issues that matter to you. So join us each weekday morning at 8:30 on MPB Think Radio, or download the podcast, listen through the app, and online.
Together through the years, together in the future. MPB, your stories, our mission.
Welcome back to Deep South Dining, right here on MPB Think Radio. We're glad you've joined us today. Happy Cinco de Mayo to one and all. Carol, we're so happy that you and I are back together after a short separation of like a month.
Now. They
Horrible.
shouldn't do that.
We shouldn't be separated for so long. So we're excited about the first annual, I suppose.
That's right, first annual.
You know, I was told before that it can't be annual until the second annual because the first cannot be an annual.
That's fair, but you have firstborn children, whether or not there's a second one, right? So that
Exactly.
You know, it makes we have every intention of this
It
being.
can go either way.
It's the Jackson Coffee Festival, and I have to say that Malcolm brought this to our attention months.
Well, I kept seeing the posters every time
Right.
I'd go in a coffee shop, there would be a poster, and I'd take a picture, and I'd send it to Carol and Marissa, and I'd say, we got to get on this. We got to get on this. This is huge.
Yeah, so last night, I'm reading, getting ready for the show, and I go, oh my gosh, it's this week.
It's
And
literally
this
Saturday.
This is exciting.
Absolutely. No, I mean, we're very excited about it. It's going to be Saturday, May 10th, which is the day before Mother's Day. So bring your moms. And if you want to bring some of that pear pie there, that would be
Pear cake.
Right?
Yeah.
That would be great. I heard about that on the radio.
I can see you eyeing the cake.
I'm telling you.
Yep.
I would suggest.
I'm covering it up here.
I would suggest that Carol might share, but I
might.
cannot
I might.
assume that.
I mean, look, I'm not being paid to be here. I need something. But yeah, the Jackson Coffee Fest, Saturday, May 10th from 9 to 4, so not quite Dolly Parton, almost there, almost 9 to 5. And after party at Cathead Distillery after that. But it's going to be a packed day.
Well, where is it?
It's going to be at the Mississippi Trade Mart. So down there.
So you're like going big.
Oh, we go big. We oh, thank you so much.
Malcolm, I shared.
I'm so
I think
happy.
that's radio extortion, right?
Yeah.
Look, whatever it takes.
That's right.
So the trademark, that's bold. It's very bold.
Yep.
Oh yeah, well it's going to be a big event already, even first annual. I mean, we've had this is a spin-off, if you will, of our NOLA Coffee Festival. Jim Curry, the organizer, got that going a couple of years ago. It's a multi-day event, and we just found there were a lot of people that couldn't take off because they're running coffee shops, they're running their businesses, and these small businesses that really make amazing coffee.
They just can't drop everything and run to New Orleans.
Right, over a weekend especially. So we wanted to make this as a little satellite operation one day, but my goodness, it is packed. I know what's going on with all this, but I was reading over this morning all the things that are going to be going on, and I was blown away that we have all this talent in Mississippi. Not surprised, but still looking at it on paper, my goodness.
Yeah. Just to remind our listeners, we're talking to Stephen Burnett, who is a professional coffee enthusiast and works for the Coffee Bean Corral here in Jackson.
That's right. That's right.
And and I have to say, Coffee Bean Corral has been started by my brother John, and I was so excited about the idea when he started this a few years ago. It was this tiny little operation, and now y'all have big warehouse, retail store in New Orleans, and are really taking a leadership role in bringing the coffee community together. But y'all are about home roasting. Is
That's
that
right.
correct?
That's right. In fact, I see you brought your roaster up here right now. I offered to roast. I didn't think it would be very good radio, just the loud fan and not being able to see anything. But yeah,
we like sound effects now.
This is our bread and butter, is these little home roasting machines. It's unbelievable how easy it is to roast coffee. And that's what Coffee Bean Corral does. We supply the green coffee as well as a lot of educational materials, roasting equipment, brewing equipment, all that kind of stuff. And we do that from our website, coffeebeancorral.com. So we ship all over the United States. Basically, if you want to get into the hobby of coffee roasting, which you do, by the way, you just do. It's too fun not to. Then you can hop on that website. You can look at all the stuff that we have, all the green coffee, all the roasters, watch our videos on YouTube. But that's what we do. We educate people on this, and it is so much fun.
Well, I can't reach my beans over there. I know Malcolm is okay. Well, I think this is so fascinating because I had the Everyday Gourmet for many years, and we were the first people in Jackson to sell roasted coffee beans. This is many, many years ago, if you can imagine, that you couldn't get beans for coffee to grind. But y'all get stuff from all over the world. I'm looking at Adami Gorbata from Ethiopia, Maccabi from Mexico.
That's good to have on Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah. And Cafe Timor from the country of East Timor. And I have, this is my personal collection. And then Sierra Nevada from Colombia, Kona Peaberry, of course, from Hawaii, which is one of my favorites. It's the only American made coffee.
That's right.
And it's a very low acid, and it's a very, very much prized coffee.
Yes.
This is from my old Everyday Gourmet days. My last one, my other favorite, Kenya Double A. Now, I know there are other Kenyan coffees, but I think Kenyan Double A is their, top grade and
cream of the crop,
and was one of my, always my favorites. But so y'all negotiate with different roasters in different countries.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah, we literally buy coffee, and we have multiple different ways of doing that. Relationships that we have. We have some direct trade with farms. We work through traders and importers and all of that kind of stuff to try and bring about, because our goal is to have as many options as possible and have them available year-round. That's our goal. So if you find a coffee that you like that's one of your favorites, you can buy it again 6 months from now, right? As opposed to having a favorite, loving it, getting it perfectly roasted, and then it's gone. And so, we have these relationships from really all over the world, and we're bringing coffee into our warehouse all the time. Like trucks are showing up, backing up with these huge 152-pound sacks. And, John, your brother says that we're bag busters. So we take those big 152, 130, whatever it is, and we break them down into these little half-pound, up to 50. Wow. And so we really supply home roasters and small, like, roasteries, even mid-sized roasteries.
Well, one comment before we take, I know we have a call. One night I was going to go do something, or it was in the afternoon with my brother, but he had to get on the computer at a certain time because he was dealing with a coffee guy. I can't remember, it was in Yemen or Ethiopia, somewhere it was a war zone.
Yes.
And the guy in this country, Yemen or Ethiopia or wherever, could only get a signal at a certain time of day or night. So John was dealing with him because your customers have to have Yemeni or Ethiopian coffee.
Absolutely. Wow. And you don't think about that. You don't think about how what goes into bringing coffee to the United States, but it's a lot.
All right, we're going to take a call now. Let's see. Wayne is calling us, Carol, from the Reservoir. Hello, Wayne. What's up?
I like Malcolm Reservoir.
What's up, Wayne?
Good morning. I went to Omaha this past weekend for what ended up being Warren Buffett's retirement party, but I passed by a Mexican inspired creamery. I guess they also served food as well, but I didn't go inside. I know the last name of it was like Michoacana, but the aroma out on the street just driving by was a bit overbearing. It smelled like they were boiling milk and sugar trying to make flan or something like that. Is that what they would have been doing? Is that what that would be?
It sounds like they were making flan or a tres leches cake or something
could have been
that you
the
boiled,
tres leche
something
cake.
that you.
But certainly they were prepping, I guess, boiled milk and sweetener for some sort of celebration, probably some Mexican dish. And if anybody has better insight on that than we do, feel free to share. But so you did not go in, but it was a creamery.
And it was in Oklahoma?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. In Omaha.
In Omaha,
Nebraska.
Oh, in Omaha. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking.
Well, we'll ponder and dig about and see what we can figure out. Maybe someone listening knows what that is. Yeah, go ahead.
One other thing, since it's Cinco de Mayo, I have one of the prickly pear cactus, and it's always bearing some fruit. And of course, it's flowery, and it has the fruit bulbs on it. Do y'all have a recommended method to remove the spines from this thing? So this year, I might be able to try to make some jelly or jams.
I've never experienced that. We can. That's another thing we can check on. You have stumped.
I'm thinking tweezers.
You stumped Deep South Dining twice in one phone call. But we will get on it and get back and share what we can learn. Carol, you look like you've found something.
I'm fast on the draw here, but Wayne, this is so interesting to me because I don't know a thing about Mexican creameries, but it's a deal. And in Nebraska, it's a big deal. There are creameries that do a Mexican ice cream shop. There's several Mexican creameries. So,
wow.
Anyway, something interesting to look into.
And the prickly pear situation is going to require some research on our part. If Felder were here, he would answer this question, but he's not. But we'll dig in.
I will check him out. I saw him at the weekend before. I saw him over there at the farmers market. I should have asked him then, but I didn't think about it. But I know that the culture typically will use that plant in other ways too. You can actually remove the spines you can take one of the pear-shaped flat, cactus pieces there, and if you remove that, you can grill it, and they use that too.
Well, it says, I'm just, kind of doing a quick search, is to use tongs to twist and pull the fruit off the flat part, the flowers and the fruit.
That part.
And to always use protective gear like gardening or protective gloves.
Yeah, you're trying to get the spine out too.
Well,
And on
the little
removing the
small-
spines, I love this. It says, roll the fruit over gravel.
Well, there you
Food
go.
prep 101. Roll the food over gravel. Yeah.
Over gravel.
Okay, Wayne.
Yeah, a friend of mine.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
A friend of mine told me to that I guess over in Spain they would take them and they would take like a broom or some device and roll them around in the dirt until all those small little fibers, spines were gone.
And there you have it. All right, Wayne, thanks a million. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for stumping us twice in one phone call.
And happy Cinco de Mayo.
Happy Cinco de Mayo. We have another caller on the line. Ricky is calling from Clinton, Mississippi. Hello, Ricky. What it is?
I wanted to bring y'all up to speed on something. Last night, I saw that the Clinton Culinary Arts Program had gone to Baltimore this past weekend to the National Pro Start Invitational, and I think there were 48 out of the 50 states that were competing, and they finished fourth in the country. So
wow,
that's impressive, actually.
Well, we love that program, and we have actually had them in the studio before. And Mal, we should do that.
Well, we'll follow up on this.
Yeah, you need to follow up with them.
Sure. That's
That's all I had.
Well, thank you so
much.
much.
That is
That's
big.
Terrific.
That's huge.
But
Congratulations to them.
Yeah. And we'll get on it. Another caller, Jackie from Terry, is calling in. Jackie, what's up?
Hey, good morning. I wanted to say that I grew up in Vicksburg, and my husband and I actually lived there in our early married days because he was an engineer at Grand Gulf, and we absolutely loved Tumanella's, and we were so sad when it closed.
Yeah.
So just a note there. It was just like you've already described. It was a fixture in Vicksburg, and side note, I think it's when all the casinos came in, all the good restaurants closed. But anyway.
Yeah, it's a real shame to lose restaurants like that have been around so long and represent such culture in small towns particularly. But, like Lusco's, we thought we'd lost Lusco's, and it has resurfaced in Taylor, Mississippi. So that's a beautiful thing. I'd love to see Tumanella's rebound and resurge, but love that place. Love that old building on Speed Street. And what a great story and great food. I'm grateful that I have Miss Mary Tumanella's tomato sauce and meatball recipes that she gave me when I worked.
Do you share that knowledge?
The tomato sauce I actually shared with the magazine Vicksburg Living, and they published it.
Okay,
so
I'll have to take one
it's
of
her
those out.
handwritten, scribbled on recipe that I have that I took a photo and sent to the magazine, and they ended up publishing it, which is, so there you go. There's at least the tomato sauce.
Another comment upon several of you and callers' recommendation. My husband and I were in California recently in the San Francisco area, visiting family, and I insisted we go to Tadic's Grill. And I will say the atmosphere, the service was just amazing, but the food was just kind of okay.
Okay. Well,
yeah, but anyway, it was an experience.
Well, sadly, that happens with some of those places. It's the atmosphere and it's the iconic nature, and I mean, you could get a better piece of fish somewhere, but you couldn't have the Tadish Grill.
Yeah, exactly.
For those of you who don't know, I am a promoter of and a big fan of the Tadish Grill. But anyway, I talk about it a lot.
That's where I fell in love with my husband.
At the Tadish?
Oh, well,
it's where I decided he was worthy.
Oh, okay.
And we have the Tadish Grill cookbook on our coffee table as a reminder.
Oh,
there we go.
Sweet. There's several good, if you're ever in the Sausalito area, which is right in Marin County, there's several wonderful seafood restaurants there. Just pick one. They're all very good. One more question, real quick. I wanted to, you can then cut me off, but I wanted the gentleman to explain if tariffs are going to affect their coffee.
We talked about that earlier.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you
did.
for bringing it up so that we could segue into tariffs and the coffee trade.
Yeah, honestly, it is. We've heard different things almost every day from our different importers and suppliers. The fact about like coffee pricing is already in the news for the better part of the last year. And I tell people, you know, if regular newspapers are printing coffee prices with headlines, it's not a good sign. And so that has a lot to do with environmental stuff. It has a lot to do with coffee crop in Brazil, with a lot of conflict, as we talked about earlier. War, conflict. It's hard to pick coffee if you're having to duck and cover all the time. And so there's a lot of reasons that the coffee prices are a big question mark right now, which is another reason to get into green coffee roasting, because green coffee is significantly cheaper than roasted, and you can do it yourself, and it's a great.
And also, if you're going to pay a premium, as we may be for coffee beans, to go for perfection and, you know, really making it an experience. And I'm sure that's what you're doing is all about.
100%.
And I see that you're going to have many classes at the coffee festival.
There's quite a bit of classes.
Yes. Yeah. I was blown away just at the level of, like, this is not just cursory stuff. Like, you can get as deep into coffee as you want. And I think I told you earlier, if I had had this when I was just a regular, non-professional coffee enthusiast, I would have lost my mind. I would have come to the whole thing and tried to be 2 places or 3 places at once while these classes were going on, because we've got stuff as interesting. I think. Have you ever seen a latte art demonstration? They do different, like, they can create.
No,
like,
I have not seen a demonstration, but
Well,
I have been an appreciator when someone makes a design on my latte. So there's a class.
There are classes, there are demos, there's so much more. Now, I'm an amateur barista at home, and I can do a heart pretty reliably. But people can do swans, people can draw all sorts of things with just the milk pitcher. It's incredible. So we're going to have a demo on that. Barista skills training. There's going to be some, if you're in the coffee business, there's going to be some professional training as well from people that are in this business that are maybe ahead of where you are. So if you want to level up your career, great place to go. But even for people walking in off the street, and by the way, I don't think I said this, it's only $10 entrance fee, free parking. I mean, you know, this is, and you're going to drink way more than $10 worth of free coffee while you're there.
Well, that's 2 coffees.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Right. To me, you know, just go and come and have fun. There's going to be a class from a mother-daughter coffee team on women in coffee. You know, and that's going to be incredible. You can get as nerdy and nitty-gritty. There's a class on water quality in coffee. You don't think about that very much,
well,
right?
we do here in Jackson.
Jackson, yeah.
We think about it a lot.
Fair enough. But even you know, coffee's 98% water. And so if the water's not there, or if it's got, you know, people use distilled water because they think it's safer, you know, that kind of thing, you don't get the flavor out of the coffee without the proper mineral content in the coffee. So they're going to have a class on that as well. Coffee cocktail class.
Now, that sounds really interesting. I mean, the only, you know, Irish coffee is, you know, my go-to, but there are more coffee cocktails?
That's right. They're going to have a whole slew, show you how to make different ones, and it's just anything else. Whatever aspect of coffee you're interested in, there is something this weekend for you at the Jackson Coffee Festival. And, I mean, cold brew coffee training, coffee cupping, which, by the way, coffee cupping is the professional way of evaluating coffee. You've seen the flavor notes on kind of higher end coffees. They'll say, like, you know, raspberry jam or you know, cocoa. Sometimes they get very specific and say 90% cocoa, you know, that kind of thing, as a flavor note in coffee. And these
wines, like we do with wines.
Just like wines. And where did they get that? Well, they got that through this method called coffee cupping. There's no filter. It's uniform across the world, the way this is done. Little cups of coffee, and you slurp with a spoon. And so they're going to have demos you can get in on. There's going to be 2 of these, and they take about 20, 30 minutes to do them, because you want to taste the coffee as it cools over time. And it has different notes and different flavors as it cools over time. It's really incredible. Like I said, you can get as deep and as nerdy as you want, or you can just go enjoy coffee.
You know, I know that when the New Orleans Coffee Festival started, it was kind of a celebration, because New Orleans, being a port, became a great coffee city in the past 100 years. You think of the French market, you think of the dark roast, combining chicory.
Right.
And so New Orleans
Signature
kind of
New
pulled
Orleans.
all this together. But, you know, from what you're saying is that there is a robust and thriving community here in central Mississippi.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the other people, local people who will be.
Well, absolutely. So the coffee cupping demo is run by Cups Roaster. And so you're going to see names you recognize from shops you recognize. North Shore Coffee is involved. Trey Malone, he's doing some of these classes as well. There are different shops, places that I'm in coffee here, and you kind of get into a rut. You know, you kind of get into a rut going to the same places and seeing the same people. And I've been blown away. We've got several lectures by a professor out of Starkville. Who's doing coffee. He just got into it as a hobby and started studying it, and now you can go learn from him at this event. So, I mean, all over the place, there's just a ton, and y'all know this show, there's a ton of talent and there's a ton of taste in Mississippi, and this is just going to highlight the coffee side of all of that.
So, Marissa, you said we had an email that came while we were chatting away, and you want to share it?
Yes. Our friend Charlotte Pelton sent an email, so I figured I'd read it to y'all.
Yeah, she's in Florida.
Yes, ma'am. She said, Happy Cinco de Mayo. Listening this morning as we celebrate this wonderful day. I'm hosting a girlfriend gathering tonight for inspiration. I found some great recipes from the Goya website. For those not aware, this brand of products are available in grocery stores throughout South Florida, as we have significant Hispanic population providing wonderful foods from all over Central and South America. She said, among my dishes will be a chorizo chipotle cheese dip made with Oaxacan cheese.
Whoa!
And I also made a tomatillo salsa that is fresh tasting and a Mexican icebox cake that
I like it.
is made with ladyfingers, mascarpone cheese, chocolate, espresso powder, and whipped cream.
Sort of an Italian
You know,
style.
that's Charlotte. She's over there on the east coast of Florida. She's
Cooking
in
it
the
up.
Palm Beach area. And she did not give us a heads up, Malcolm. We could have gone there. We have some coffee here from Oaxaca that we could have taken.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I
But
heard that.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. We were always happy to hear from one of our cooking and coping family.
Yes, indeed.
So we're talking to Stephen Burnett about the first annual Jackson Coffee Festival this Saturday, May the 10th, at the Trademark on the fairgrounds.
That's right.
in downtown Jackson. A huge event. Looks like 20 or 30 exhibitors, classes starting early in the morning and going all throughout the day until around 5.
Yeah, around 4. And then there's an after party at Cathead.
At Cathead.
That's right.
A coffee party.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, coffee and spirits.
I was going to say, there's other beverages, I'm sure, there than just coffee.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about home roasting because it's a great hobby. And I was kind of embarrassed when somebody asked me my hobbies a few years ago, and I said watching sunsets and taking baths.
I don't see anything to be embarrassed about.
Well, I mean, those are my best hobbies, but I am a starting out hobbyist on roasting coffee. It doesn't, take much to get involved, and you can go deep or you can go wide.
That's right.
Okay, so I brought for those on YouTube my home coffee roaster, and I'm asking you, can people learn how to roast coffee at this festival this weekend?
Yes. Yeah, we are going to have Coffee Bean Corral's booth is going to have a demo, several of these demos of roasting coffee. So you'll be able to come in and see the green coffee go from unroasted, what you have right there in the bags, to roasted. And the cool thing is we're having one of our employees, Craig, do this demo. Now, the thing about Craig, and here's why we're doing this, Craig had never roasted coffee in his life before a couple of weeks ago. And never roasted in his life. And we came to him and said, Craig, we'd like to highlight that this is so easy to get into. It's so easy to learn that a newbie can roast really good coffee out of the gate and talk about it. And so he and I have been working. We actually have a couple of YouTube shorts we've done where I do like a roasting class with him, and he's roasted at home. He's like been doing his homework, and he'll text me these videos like 10 o'clock at night of him roasting coffee in a machine just like this one. And he's gotten amazing results. I tell people learning to roast coffee is really easy. It's surprisingly easy.
And you kind of figure out how dark you like it or how
absolutely.
light.
And most people find out they like it a little lighter than they expect, because typically you're used to the darker roasted coffee. But, you have 8 coffees piled up right there? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have 8 coffees over there. And those coffees all have a different flavor profile. They all have different flavor notes that are in there to be unlocked by the coffee roasting process. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of think people, I think mistakenly believe coffee is coffee is coffee.
Right. And only the roasting matters.
Right.
Which the roasting is important,
of course.
But these flavors are already there. Yeah. It's just up to the roaster to lock, as you say, bring them out.
Yeah, but when you think about it, like wines, it's the soil that it's grown in. It's like why Kona is low acid because of the volcanic soil. Right. It's they say, I can't say the word well. Terroir,
I think, right?
Yeah. The earth that it comes from. But is my coffee roaster like a bottom of the line? I mean, is that just kind of an entry level?
Well, yeah.
I mean, you can get in a lot of trouble with what I've got.
I tell people it's like anything. You can make the best coffee you've ever had in that roaster, or you can make absolutely undrinkable swill in that roaster. And that has a lot to do with your
undrinkable swill?
Oh, my first 5 pounds of coffee, I roasted. I had that set up when I started. And I roasted. I didn't read anything. I just dumped the coffee.
Yeah, I'll figure this out.
Fired it up, and I was like, man, I could roast that coffee perfectly in like 3 minutes. Amazing. None of the flavors developed. It tasted like grass and like green beans when I brewed it. And so I then thought I should probably do a little research and a little looking into this. And I learned, right, as you do, trial and error. But yeah, this is kind of, I would say, mid-range, because the truth is you can roast coffee in a cast iron skillet. You can roast coffee. We have a guy that I just did an interview on our podcast, and we had a guy that now has a roasting business that is thriving, a coffee shop roasting business. 3.5 years ago, he put coffee on a cookie sheet in his oven and roasted it that way. And so it's really low entry to get into coffee roasting. Now, of course, if you want to do it well, there's some things you need, and this machine gives you a lot of the control that you would want to have, right?
Well, I was pretty proud to get to bring in show and tell today to prove to my friend Mal that I've been roasting coffee.
Now, I have a question. Does this gizmo, this vertical gizmo, actually roast it, or do you put it in the oven and then put it into this cranking?
Yeah, so this is the roaster, and the vertical one is the all-in-one package, right? So this would roast it and cool it. Now that is an external bean cooler that'll get the coffee from 500 degrees, 450 degrees down to like room temperature.
Because you want to stop the roasting.
Exactly.
Yeah, to do that.
It's like anything else, right?
Malcolm, it's like a coffee popcorn popper.
Yes.
It goes
that.
Beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
Yes.
It does.
Yes.
Okay, so can people buy tickets at the event?
Yes, they can do it at the event, and they can do it online at the website. There's also coffee shops around town that are selling them for $10 a piece, but the website is jacksoncoffeefestival.com. You can buy those in advance. You can buy them at the door. Whatever. We'd love to see as many people there as we possibly
And will
could.
we see you there?
So I am actually, my wife is a very accomplished woman, and so I'm unfortunately not going to get to come because I'm going to be in Chicago watching her get an award. So,
well, thank you.
Your wife, doctor.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I was like, yeah, this is a good husband move right here. So
well, thank you for coming today.
Yes.
Stephen Burnett with the Jackson Coffee Festival this Saturday, May 10th at the Trademark, 9 until 4. Deep South Dining is a production of Mississippi Public Broadcasting's Think Radio. We're funded, and we're grateful for each and every one of you. For Carol Palmer, for Stephen Burnett, I'm Malcolm White saying now stay tuned for Everyday Tech at 10, Southern Remedy at 11. See you next week.